Get your tickets now for the 23rd annual edition of the OUTshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival happening April 23rd to May 2nd. Don't miss our incredible grand opening drive-in event followed by 10 days of non-stop films from here and all around the world that you can watch at home. Watch trailers and get your tickets at OUTshineFilm.com now.
Hello, everybody. This is Victor Jimenez. I'm your executive director for the OUTshine LGBTQ Plus Film Festival. On behalf of the board and staff, welcome to the 23rd annual Miami edition. We're presented by Gilead and Miami-Dade County. So today we are going to have our Q&A for the short film In the Image of God. We're actually very happy to have with us the director, Bianca Rondolino. Welcome,
Hi.
Bianca.
Thank you.
So actually, I want to start with the question I'm kind of really most curious about is where the idea to come up with this short little doc about the intersex rabbi, and I guess where did you hear about the story, and then why did you choose to make it?
Everyone always asks me first thing how I met Levi, because he has such an incredible life story. I was in Los Angeles and I wanted to do a short documentary about gender identity. I had no specific story in mind. I was just looking for an interesting character and just a story that could tell, show verbally and visually the personal journey people go through in terms of their gender identity. And I posted online, and Levi contacted me and offered to help me find a character. So we got to know each other. He shared his life story, and I asked him to be the character because I thought it was so extraordinary.
Yeah, the amazing thing, not just his story, but just the story of his family. I mean, were you I'm pretty sure most of my audience, myself, I was definitely surprised that, if I remember correctly, 4 out of 5 generations, were intersex. I mean, one, were you surprised by that too? And two, when you did your research, is that a common thing or is that uncommon?
I mean, it depends, because there are many different forms and kinds of intersexuality. So and part of that is genetic, and within specific groups or ethnicities, it is more common than other. However, I mean, being his family story and the fact that he grew up with a great grandmother who was intersex and a grandmother who was intersex is definitely very, very special and very unusual.
Yeah, and then the story that, when you mentioned the grandmother, that really, affected me was, the story of the grandmother when she had to leave the home, and then the train, broke down, and it was 3 o'clock, and was that how was Levi telling that story? Was he very, did he break down emotionally? Was there more insight there than what was shown on the film?
He shared several anecdotes about his grandmother and his upbringing and the impact that it had on him, and so it was very painful as an editor to have to just choose and select only one. I chose that because it's very it just shows the pain of this woman that she had to go through and live all her life, and it shows the impact on Levi that it had. That witnessing such a life model had on him, and I think it's particularly important because that's just an anecdote that showed to him what life he could lead and the only possibilities he had, and that was a huge motivation for him to actually choose liberation and find a way to live his life as a man. And so when he told this story, he was definitely emotional. But I think now, in hindsight, and so many years have passed for him, that I feel like his main emotion is just tenderness and affection towards his grandmother that he loved very much.
No, it definitely comes across his emotion to the story, but also the love for his grandmother. I'm kind of curious. He became a rabbi, and I really love that part in the film where he goes into this Hebrew word, and this is what it in fact what it means and all that, because I think people kind of forget. Let's go into the Bible in general, right? Originally, it was in Hebrew and some parts in Aramaic. Then the New Testament was predominantly, Greek. Then it got translated to Latin, and then from there it got translated to, all the other languages. So there's a lot of different points of view that sometimes you forget the initial root of that word. So I was very thankful that he went into the root of that. This Hebrew word actually means this, because I think people lose track of that. And I'm just a mental point. I guess I'm making a comment as opposed to a question. But the actual question, and maybe you have the answer, is was it difficult for him to actually become a rabbi? And is he a rabbi at a temple or a synagogue? And how accepting of him, I'm guessing they would be, of him and his story, are they wherever he's the rabbi at?
So I'm not gonna share more personal information about him that's already shared in the film, just for privacy and because it's up to him to share. But he is, the Judaism, especially in the United States, is very complex, and it's there's 1,000 different worlds inside the community. And as of today, he's an activist. He posts online, as you know, like weekly readings of the Bible, and he's very outspoken about his identity, his story, and his religious leadership. So as of now, for sure, he has found a way to be able to live out all the aspects of his life.
Okay. The going back to the creative process of putting this short documentary together, you mentioned it briefly with like the whole making the tough decision as an editor to parse it down. Let my audience know, like how much what was the time frame from when you had the idea to finding Levi, going through the process of realizing, oh, let me just do the film about Levi, getting all the information, getting all the footage, and then editing it down. Like, let our audience know, how much footage do you have? Like what did it take to actually make this film?
So the interview took, I had more or less, I think, 3 hours of interview. So the most, even though it wasn't the longest part, but the most challenging part, I would say, was the editing of the interview, because there are so many topics, and his life is very long, and he shared a lot. So I felt honored to have all this material and very, I really wanted to let his story emerge without how editing is. So and that took, to get to the first cut, it took about a month, I guess, and then from then on there were several other different cuts, but mostly the first cut was the first big turning point, because that's when I made all big decisions. And then the other creative part that was challenging and took a while, I think it took a couple of months, was the soundtrack, because the soundtrack is original. And so I worked very closely with the composer. His name is Simon Wilson. And we both made a big effort into trying to convey with the music the internal journey of Levi rather than the external narrative of the film. So yeah, and yeah, those are the two main parts of the production. Shooting actually took like one day. So
yeah, it's always the I've spoken to many people who've done documentary films. It's always the editing and what you actually put in the film that always it's a tough part of the whole.
And also in this case the archival material as well. That's the other big part of work, because I had to do a lot of research to choose the B-roll that was shot in the time and the location that the story happened. So I gone through a lot of archival material and just did a lot of research to have that. To find the right B-roll to tell the story.
The knowing that it's been very odd 12 months for films and all that. What has been the life of the film? Like, has there been other like what has been the reception of the people that have watched the film from that you're aware of? I mean, knowing that filming has not been there, and a lot of the stuff done is probably in Zoom or virtual like this. Like, what have you heard people's reaction to it? Because it is odd. We're an LGBTQ plus film festival. The intersex is in the plus. I can't remember, and I know we've probably had one other intersex, film in there. So I mean, it's a very rare gift that you've given film festivals. Like, what has been the reception and response?
As you said, I haven't participated to actual physical events. It's all been virtual so far. But it has, I've actually been happy about the fact that it's virtual, even though I do miss the physical aspects of cultural events, because many people from the LGBT community maybe perhaps wouldn't go to film festival, wouldn't have the chance economically or just geographically to move somewhere else to watch movies. And because the festivals have been virtual so far, a lot of people from our community have been able to watch it, which makes me very happy, because first and foremost, we need representation, and I made this film to give representation to a huge portion of the population that doesn't get any. And so the response has been so far very, very positive, and I'm very happy about that, because people are either just very, very happy to finally see such a story that hasn't been told very much, or other people are just, maybe most people have never heard about intersexuality, but they are very curious, and they it gets them thinking about gender in a way that maybe they hadn't considered before. And I feel like Levi, his way of speaking and his story and the way he talks about God is very useful for maybe for having people who are not in the community, and for them to understand, to find a connection because of his faith. Because many people have a strong connection with God and with faith and with spirituality, and are able through that to connect with Levi and with his, the other part of his journey.
Yeah, and just interesting that you say all that to make you aware. Like when I saw when I saw the film, I'm like, you know what, my church, Coral Gables Congregational Church, it's an open and affirming church. And I said, I think they would be the perfect community partner for this film. And they jumped right on, and they actually want to create this whole, once the actual film is out there in live for people to watch it, they actually want to create like a discussion so people can watch it at a certain time and then actually come together to have a conversation about it. So I want you to know that. So and it's funny because I when I was watching this, I go, this I have to let the pastors there know about this film and see if they can be the community partner for it. And they said yes, so I do want to share that with you. So
That's great.
yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, Bianca, thank you very much for taking the time from Rome to be here with us today. Like I said, I thoroughly enjoyed your film.
Thank you.
I'm so happy that like you said, that there's hardly any intersex films, and representation does matter. So I'm very happy you made this film. I'm very happy we have this film, and I'm very happy it's out there in the world and people will get to enjoy it.
Thank
is there
you so
anything else
much.
you want to share?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, then with that, I say thank you very much again for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank
Bye.
you very much. Bye.